Hello and welcome back to the Pro Wrestling Mayhem YouTube channel. Today we are talking about WCW Nitro episode number 3 from September 18th, 1995 in Johnson City, Tennessee. Bischoff welcomes us to the show and we go to the commentary table where we see Steve Mongo McMichael with his Chihuahua Pepe, Bobby the Brain Heenan. Eric Bischoff says we'll talk about War Games from last night, and then he says there's something going on in the backstage area. We go backstage and we see an ambulance backing up slowly with Mean Gene Okerlund there. The ambulance door opens and we see the Taskmaster Kevin Sullivan and the Giant. The Giant would go on to be the Big Show in WWE. The Giant then begins to speak. He says, I've been thinking about what it would feel like to ride in the back of one of those. The Giant says, you are not the one true immortal. I am. Okerlund then says, if your father knew what you were doing. And then the Giant says, if my father were alive today, he would be by my side to end Hulkamania. The American males come out, and it's now time for the Blue Bloods to come out. But we see beautiful Bobby Eaton get thrown past the curtain, and we see one of the members of Harlem Heat beat him down. I don't think he was called Beautiful Bobby Eaton. What was his name? Let's just call him Bobby Eaton. The Harlem Heat come out with Sherry, and Sherry has the tag straps, their newly won tag team straps, on her shoulders. Booker T has a microphone. He says, we are the tag team champions, and we're going to give you a title shot to prove ourselves. The Blue Bloods have no business here. We're going to turn up the heat. It's now time for our first match of the evening. The bell rings and the match is on. Early on, the American males gave Stevie Ray a double drop kick. Booker T hit a power slam on Marcus Bagwell. Booker T went for a leg drop, but Bagwell moved. This gave Marcus Bagwell some time to tag out. Booker T hit an axe kick and a big wheel kick on Scotty Riggs, and Scotty Riggs was out. Booker T went for a flipping leg drop, but Scotty Riggs moved out of the way. Bagwell eventually gets the hot tag. He hits some moves. He then gets cut off. Shot goes on the entranceway where we see Corporal Robert Parker come out. Sherry went to hit one of them with her shoe, but when she saw Colonel Robert Parker, she fell into his arms, and that was the end of that. Parker left ringside carrying Sherry. One of the American males rolled up one of the members of Harlem Heat for the pin to become the new WCW World Tag Team Champions. Then go to a commercial break. Back from the commercial break, we see Mean Gene Okerlund in the ring, and he calls out the Nature Boy, Ric Flair. Gene Okerlund starts saying, Ric Flair, tonight you're gonna face Flying Brian Pillman. Flair starts to speak. He says, he broke the code. The big bad enforcer broke the code. We were gonna settle it within the family, but you broke the code. Arn Anderson, I'm gonna find you and I'm gonna kick your ass in Johnson City, Tennessee. Eric Bischoff then tells us we'll see Sting taking on Steve Regal on WCW Saturday night. Plus, Cobra collides with Craig Pittman and we'll have a one-on-one interview with Dusty Rhodes. Plus, there'll be an update on Hulk Hogan. All that and more on WCW Saturday night. Mr. Wonderful comes out with a hand mirror. He's looking at it and he's like, oh, I'm so pretty. And then his opponent for the night is Johnny B. Bad. The bell rings and the two men trade punches back and forth. Orndorff gives him a choke in the corner and then some knees to the stomach. Johnny B. Bad goes to the top. He jumps off, but Paul Orndorff raises his knees, and that was the end of that. They then go to a commercial break. Back from the commercial break, Johnny B. Bad goes for a splash, but again, Paul Orndorff gets his knees up. Paul Orndorff goes for a splash of his own, but Johnny B. Bad moves out of the way. Bad punches him in the face twice, causing Paul Orndorff to powder out. Bad then propels himself over the rope and gives him a splash on the outside of the ring. Johnny Bad hits an axe handle and gets a near fall. Bad gives Paul 2 running clotheslines. Bad went for a pile driver, but Orndorff flipped him over and pinned him while Johnny B. Bad was going for a sunset flip. They then go to the set of Baywatch. We see Macho Man Randy Savage doing a bench press as women lifeguards are cheering him on. The Taskmaster runs in, pushes the spotter, and then chokes Randy Savage with the bar. Sullivan gives him some punches until Ric Flair and somebody else comes and helps Randy Savage. Then go to the ring where Mean Gene Okerlund calls out Macho Man Randy Savage. Gene Okerlund asks Randy Savage about Ric Flair helping him out on the beach, and Randy Savage says thanks, but no thanks. Gene then asks him about the Taskmaster. Randy Savage says, how do you kill a snake? You rip its head off. I'm gonna beat up Kevin Sullivan. Gene Okerlund then says, let's talk about War Games. The Hulkamaniacs won, but there was some dissension between the teammates. Savage says, I don't know if Hogan is in the hospital or at home licking his wounds, but there is nobody tougher than Hulk Hogan. Hogan is a poor judge of character, and Lex Luger cheap-shotted me at War Games, and that is proof of that. Hogan says, I was talking to some wrestlers watching the match, and they said it was unintentional. Which then says, who did you ask, Sting or Jimmy Hart? I'm drawing a line in the sand, and if you're with me, you're with me. If you're against me, you're against me. He then says, if you're with me, buckle up, because it's going to be a bumpy ride. Savage then says, if there's going to be a new Dungeon of Doom, they're going to have 3 new members. Sting, Jimmy Hart, and Lex Luger. The shot then goes on the entranceway, and we see Lex Luger make his way to the ring. Lex Luger then says, Savage, you've been making some really strong statements out here. I was thinking, what could be making Savage be so wound up? Is it jealousy? Do you want to be the WCW World Heavyweight Champion? And then Savage says, yeah, I want to be WCW World Champion. Savage then says, you cheap shot at me at War Games. Lex Luger then says, I came here to play with the big boys. Savage says, there isn't a bigger boy than me, and all we need is a bell, so ding ding. Gene Okerlund then says, not now, and then they go to a commercial break. They are welcomed back to Monday Nitro by Eric Bischoff. Eric Bischoff says that the security cleared the ring. Bischoff then says he wants to show what happened to Hulk Hogan before and after the pay-per-view event. We see Hulk Hogan pull up on a motorcycle somewhere where there's a lot of fans cheering, and Gene Okerlund is also there. We see Hulk Hogan pull up on a motorcycle somewhere where there's a lot of fans cheering, and Gene Okerlund is also there. Hogan says he's going to destroy the Dungeon of Doom. Suddenly, a big monster truck comes and runs over Hulk Hogan's motorcycle. We then see that it's the Giant driving the monster truck. He backs over the motorcycle a few times. Hogan gets mad and starts hitting the monster truck as the Giant cackles. We then show the Giant coming to the ring at War Games. The Giant comes to the ring, tosses the referee to the side, gets in the ring, and starts choking Hulk Hogan. He then twists his head and Hogan falls to the mat. The show then goes back to the arena for our main event. It is now time for our main event between the Nature Boy Ric Flair and Flying Brian Pillman. The bell rings and they go right after each other. They trade chops and punches early on. Flair tosses Pillman to the outside and then hits him with a flying axe hand. At one point, Ric Flair's at the top rope. He jumps off and Pillman drop kicks him as he's falling. They fight on the floor a bit. Flair picks up Brian Pillman and hot shots him on the guardrail. Later on, Flair went to the top rope and Brian Pillman slammed him to the mat. Pillman went for a splash off the top rope, but Flair moved. Flair went for the figure four, but instead Brian Pillman rolled him up for a near fall. Flair then puts him in the figure four again, and Brian Pillman submits. Ric Flair wins. After the match, Ric Flair calls out Arn Anderson for next week. Eric Bischoff says next week we'll see the Nitro debut of Disco Inferno as he takes on Alex Ray. Kurosawa will be there with Colonel Robert Parker. Randy Savage will take on the Taskmaster, and Lex Luger will take on Kamala. That's it for this video. Don't forget to subscribe.